deep soil of ancient kingdoms often holds secrets that the sun refuses to illuminate. In a desolate region known as the Black Valley, there exists a structure that defies the peace of the dead. It is the Temple of the Iron Crown, a monolith of black stone standing adjacent to a cursed burial ground known as the Field of Eternal Wailing. At the entrance of this terrifying graveyard stands a jagged, rusted signpost that screams a warning to all. The gate beyond sunset leads to the abyss. Do not enter, for the dead are still at war. Suspended from the temple's eastern arch is a massive, soot-blackened bell. It is said that this bell was forged in blood and iron, and no living hand has pulled its rope for 300 years. Yet, every midnight, the valley vibrates with a low, mournful toll. Clang, clang, clang. The locals believe that the sound of the bell is the heartbeat of a king who refuses to die and a signal for a ghostly massacre to begin anew. To understand the curse of the Black Valley, one must recall the reign of Raja Martand. He was a ruler who believed that his lineage was divine and that the common people were nothing more than dust beneath his golden sandals. He enforced a law of absolute segregation, declaring the temple off limits to anyone of lower birth. Martand was a man of rituals, obsessed with maintaining a purity that was as cold as ice and as sharp as a blade. The tragedy that sealed the fate of the valley occurred during a lunar eclipse. An old, weary traveler named Deva, belonging to the downtrodden community, accidentally wandered into the temple courtyard, seeking shelter from a sudden storm. Deva was nearly deaf and did not hear the royal guard's warnings. When Raja Martand stepped out and saw Deva standing near the sacred altar, he did not see a human being. He saw a stain on his holiness. With a single stroke of his heavy scimitar, Martand severed Deva's head, letting the blood soak into the very stones of the sanctuary. The news of the unprovoked murder sparked a fire that had been smoldering for generations. Deva's kin, led by a blacksmith named Jivan, marched upon the temple. They did not come for gold, they came for justice. Raja Martand, in his arrogance, ordered his legion to wipe out every person who dared to stand against him. The resulting slaughter was so vast that the temple steps were slippery with gore. The bodies of the fallen villagers were thrown into the neighboring pits, denied their dignity and their peace. But Jivan was a man of iron. As the sun set, he led a final, desperate charge. Amidst the chaos of the battle, Jivan reached the king. As Martand reached for the temple bell to call for more reinforcements, Jivan's blade found the king's heart. The king fell, his blood splattering across the bronze bell, his hand still clutching the rope. Both sides were nearly decimated, and in the end, the survivors buried the king and his victims in the same cursed earth, side by side. Since that night, the Field of Eternal Wailing has become a theater of the macabre. Legend says that the Raja's spirit cannot move on until he completes the sacred prayer that Jivan interrupted. Every night, his heavy, invisible chains can be heard dragging across the stone floors of the temple, the weight of his pride pulling him back from the grave. When the bell begins to toll, it is the Raja reaching for his divinity, but he is never alone. The spirits of Jeevan and the thousands of murdered villagers rise from the silt, their spectral weapons clashing against the king's ghostly guards. Brave souls who have wandered near the border of the valley speak of a war of shadows. They describe green mists rising from the ground, taking the shapes of men locked in a struggle that never ends. The air turns freezing, smelling of ancient copper and ozone. The screams of the dying echo through the trees, followed by the terrifying, rhythmic ringing of the bell. A few years ago, a team of paranormal investigators from the city arrived with thermal cameras and motion sensors. They laughed at the superstitions of the village elders and set up their equipment right next to the rusted signpost. They wanted to prove that the sounds were merely wind and shifting earth.
At exactly 12 a.m., their equipment went haywire. The thermal cameras picked up hundreds of humanoid shapes emerging from the ground. The audio recorders captured a single, terrifying word repeated over and over. Nyai, Nyai. Justice, justice. The giant bell began to ring so violently that it cracked the stone pillar it was attached to. The investigators were found the next morning, huddled in their van, unable to remember their own names. Their leader had a deep, frozen bruise on his throat in the shape of a skeletal hand. The villagers know the truth. They know that the Raja is trapped in a loop of his own making. If the ghostly king ever manages to ring the bell 7 times without being stopped by the spirits of the villagers, the legend says he will rise in the flesh to reclaim his throne and finish the purge he started centuries ago. This is why the spirits of Jeevan and Deva continue to fight. They are the guardians of the living, preventing the king from ever finishing his prayer. The signpost still stands, a jagged reminder that some wars do not end with a treaty. The people of the Black Valley lock their windows and blow out their candles before the clock strikes 12. They listen to the dragging chains and the tolling bell, knowing that just a few hundred yards away, a king and his people are still fighting for a justice that will never come. If you ever find yourself on the road to the Black Valley as the shadows grow long, do not stop for anyone. Do not look toward the Black Stone Temple, and whatever you do, do not follow the sound of the bell. For in that valley, the king is always looking for a new soul to witness his prayer, and the dead are always looking for a new reason to scream.